Well, elections at all levels are on the minds of British Columbians right now, but yesterday, federal politics took center stage thanks to the federal NDP. Leader Jagmeet Singh says he has terminated his party's governance agreement with the Liberals, known as the Confidence and Supply Agreement. Here he is speaking in a video posted to social media yesterday.
Canadians are fighting a battle for the future of the middle class. Justin Trudeau has proven again and again he will always cave to corporate greed. The Liberals have let people down. They don't deserve another chance.
Some rather dramatic music going along with that. That is Jagmeet Singh speaking in a video posted to social media with some, as I said, rather dramatic movie-style music. He says his party's cutting ties with the governing Liberals ahead of the fall sitting of Parliament. Now, this comes days after Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre publicly called on Singh, calling him sellout Singh, to end the agreement, which could, in theory, lead to an early election. That is far from a sure thing, though. And Peter Julian is the NDP MP for New Westminster-Burnaby, and he joins us on the line this morning. Good morning to you, Peter.
Good to be with you.
Appreciate your time. So this agreement was supposed to go until June of next year. Why end it now?
Well, we've forced the government to do a lot of things, dental care, pharmacare, finally building affordable housing, the anti-SCAB legislation. All of this has been really helpful. But the reality is, as Jagmeet Singh said in his video, the Liberals are too beholden to corporate interests. And we're seeing this now on a lack of action around food price gouging in the supermarkets. This is something that has become increasingly an issue, certainly is an issue in the United States, where the Harris campaign has taken real action against the food price gouging by big American supermarkets. We have gas price gouging. We have corporate landlords. We have the massive overseas tax havens that serve Canadian corporations, and the railway dispute, another example where corporate CEOs want to reduce health and safety measures, and the railway employees were saying no to this, and the government moved it to binding arbitration, which basically means half of those safety measures presumably would be gone. And so these are all examples of a Liberal government it's simply unable, kind of weak and unable to stand up to corporate interests at a time when Canadians are struggling.
But
that's why it's important to have this alternative.
None of this message is new, Peter. I mean, ever since this agreement was struck with the federal Liberals, between the federal NDP and the Liberals, the NDP has been sending out rafts of news releases complaining about the Liberals, criticizing them for everything, and then at the same time turning around and voting with them in Parliament.
We have managed to accomplish things that have make a meaningful difference in the lives of Canadians. I can tell you the number of people who've stopped by my office this summer to say, thank you for the NDP dental care plan. It's making a difference. We've had 500,000 Canadians that have benefited from that. So the NDP has pushed and prodded and forced the Liberals to do the right thing in a whole range of issues. I just mentioned them, everything from anti-replacement worker legislation to pharmacare. But the reality is there are issues now that need to be dealt with where the Liberals are simply unable, unwilling, too weak to step up. And because they're so beholden to corporate interests, we can't make that further progress to combat food price gouging that takes place when people go to the supermarket, to fight back against the overseas tax havens that bleed this country. According to the BBO, $30 billion a year. These are all issues that a government that really stepped up for people would be glad to take action on. And unfortunately, under Mr. Trudeau, the Liberals are too weak and too beholden to those corporate interests to take action. And that's why I think Jagmeet's video was so clear in the contrast. You've got Pierre Poilievre, who wants to cut everything, Mr. Trudeau, who doesn't seem to want to take action, and Jagmeet Singh, who has a very, very clear track record and who wants to take action on these issues in the same way that we're seeing with Kamala Harris in the United States, a real upswell of interest in a government that is going to take action and help the middle class and working people.
Yeah, you think that's a real comparison, do you?
I do. This issue of food price gouging and gas price gouging is very clear in the United States election. It will be clear in the Canadian election. And this is why it's so important to have a party that is, and a leader like Jagmeet Singh that is willing to step up for people.
This move by Jagmeet Singh came immediately after Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre criticized him and asked him to cancel the confidence and supply agreement with the Liberals. It certainly looks like Jagmeet Singh did this in response to Poilievre.
Not at all. In fact, Pierre Poilievre has done the same thing every week for the last 2 years. So on any given week, he would be calling for the same thing. We're not following Pierre Poilievre in any way. In fact, he would be very toxic for the country with all of his cuts to services. And we saw with Stephen Harper, when Pierre Poilievre was part of that government, how willing they were to take away services and supports from people, from veterans, from seniors. So what the NDP is putting out and what Jagmeet Singh put out yesterday in the video is a very clear contrast between business as usual that we've seen in Ottawa over the last couple of decades that have certainly made it more difficult and for families and for people right across this country, and the NDP that has a proven track record of taking action, pushing hard for supports, and ultimately helping Canadians right across the country.
Does ending this agreement mean that we are going to have an early election?
Well, I mean, voting non-confidence is always on the table, but the reality is we will go back to what we did in the last Parliament during COVID. We proceeded vote by vote. Ultimately, we negotiated huge benefits during COVID that helped people and small businesses and families and seniors get through COVID. And the NDP going back to that will mean we'll continue to press on a vote-by-vote basis.
So what's the difference between having a confidence and supply agreement and not having a confidence and supply agreement? You're going to agree with the Liberal. I mean, do you want an early election? Can you afford an early election?
We are in good shape and ready to go to an election at any time, but we are going to look at each vote on whether or not it's in the public interest, as we did during COVID. And the reality is, voting non-confidence is now on the table because the agreement has been ripped up. Before, we were bound by it, and now it will be vote by vote. And so we'll see. The election will be in 12 months at a maximum and could well be sooner, but we are going to be proceeding vote by vote and making sure that each vote that we make is in the interest of Canadians, working people, and the middle class.
The federal Conservatives are at an all-time high in the polls. Would an early election not suit them more than it would suit anyone else? Would they not be the biggest beneficiaries of that election?
Pierre Poilievre's support is softening, as you know,
really?
in the polls that we've seen. Oh, yes. In terms of his personal support, his support is softening because he hasn't really offered anything that shows that he cares about people. There's nothing concrete that he has put forward. And his track record over 20 years, nobody can point to a single thing that he has done that has actually helped people. Jagmeet Singh has done more in the last 16 weeks to help Canadians than Pierre Poilievre has done in 20 years. But his support is softening because of that, because he hasn't offered a concrete alternative. And as you saw in the polls this week, Jagmeet Singh is the most popular leader in the country. And so I think over the course of this parliamentary session, we'll see that contrast. Pierre Poilievre who wants to cut, Mr. Trudeau, who just doesn't seem to want to take action unless when the NDP forces them to take action. And Jagmeet Singh has a very clear vision of this country that is really focused on making sure Canadians have the supports they need.
Is the point here, Peter, to try to put the NDP into a position where it is seen as the only alternative to the Conservatives versus the Liberals, which tend to be the natural alternative to the Conservatives?
That's a very good question. We've seen in the polls this week Jagmeet Singh being the most popular leader, but we've also seen the polls showing that the NDP will win more seats than the Liberals. We were in the same situation back in 2011.
What polls are we talking about?
We saw with Angus Reid this week. If you look at the numbers, the actual number of seats would be higher for the NDP than for the Liberals.
If an election were called today?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but an election isn't. But there's no election today.
But no, you're absolutely true, and polls change. We understand that. We saw back in 2011 Jack Layton being on the cusp of actually winning government, and what the Liberals did was try to push him down rather than supporting Jack Layton, and he would have become the first NDP Prime Minister. We certainly see that when we look at the three leaders, Mr. Trudeau is not popular at all. Mr. Poilievre hasn't really anything concrete to offer Canadians, and Jagmeet Singh has a very, very clear vision. So as the months unfold and the weeks unfold over the next little period, we'll see that contrast. And I think Jagmeet Singh's popularity will continue to grow.
Yeah, Jagmeet Singh has been leader of the party since 2017. He led the party to very middling results, 24 seats in 2019, 25 seats in 2021, making almost no gains. Do you see him making significant gains? I mean, if there is not a breakthrough in this next election, is Jagmeet Singh, long for this world?
Well, first off, I mean, people said the same thing about Jack Layton. The first three elections that Jack Layton had, we made not a lot of progress. It was after Canadians got to know Jack Layton that we saw the big breakthrough election in 2011. I'm seeing certainly and hearing from the public in my riding the same thing, that the more people know Jagmeet Singh, the more they like him. And that's why I think there is that very, very clear contrast in the next election campaign between Jagmeet Singh and Pierre Poilievre. There is no doubt. I think most Canadians will want to choose the vision that Jagmeet Singh puts out.
Peter, what's your dog's name?
Chili, and he likes CBC, but obviously wants to be on the program as well.
We'll let you attend to Chili. Thank you so much for taking the time with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Great to speak with you.
Right.
Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's Peter Julian, the NDP MP for New Westminster-Burnaby.